Jason Johnson.
I don't like engaging what I call performative blackness, right? The whole hagiography of what black folk are supposed to do in politics and how we're supposed to pray and sing and dance in order to elicit certain type of sympathy. But the level of rage that I and people that I know had when we saw this testimony is beyond anything I've probably experienced since George Floyd. That's my grandmother. That is literally the kind of work that my grandmother used to do in Newark, New Jersey. Registering people to vote, taking seniors in buses to go here and there, getting young people registered to vote. The level of violence that the Republican organization engages in against black people on a regular basis should make everything that happens in this trial pale in comparison. This is what they do. This is what they do. This is why Randy Bowman and Raffles, this is why I don't care about them getting threatening calls. Because you know what happens to them? They go back to their offices and they get security. You know what happens to people in the Supreme Court when they get threatened? They get security paid for by the Senate, but not regular black people who are just doing their jobs. Not people who have lost their name, the ability to go to the grocery store, the ability to just live their regular lives, for having the audacity to stand against the white nationalist coup that masquerades as the Republican Party. What angers me so much, honestly, Nicole, about that testimony is that I know that those women are going to get additional threats because they were brave enough to get on television and talk about what happened. And I also know that the party that is putting these hearings together is going to do little or nothing to keep those people safe when we face this again this fall. This was the most infuriating part of these hearings that I've ever seen. Every single one of these people should be in jail, and if they're not, it is an absolute abdication of responsibility by this committee, by Merrick Garland, all the way up into the White House.
Jason Johnson, we've had a lot of conversations, but maybe none like this one. I'm going to need you to say more.
The way that Donald Trump has sort of weaponized his own bigotry, right? There was a guy who I talked to in the summer of 2020 named Nathan Calloway. Columbus, Ohio, who was like providing medical aid during a Black Lives Matter protest. And Trump put him in a tweet, and people chased him around. And here we are 2 or 3 years later. How many different people does Donald Trump and his cronies have to attack, have to threaten before we recognize that the man is a terrorist and everybody who works with him is a terrorist and Giorgi Giuliani is a terrorist? This is not political activity. This is not passion. And I don't want to hear anything about the braveness of Bowman or Raffensperger or whatever. You know what? Because those guys engage in the very same voter suppression policies that led to people feeling emboldened enough that they could threaten black women like that. Let's look at what Raffensperger has done in Georgia. Let's look at how many times he's worked with the GBI, the Georgia Board of Bureau of Investigation. Look at how many times he's gone after the New Georgia Project. This is what they do. So I don't care about them standing in front and saying, oh my gosh, for the first time in my life, I am the subject of the same kind of violence that I've been using the state apparatus to put against black people for the last 35 years. And this will be the norm, Nicole. This will be the norm for every other election, as long as we actually have them going forward, if this committee and the Justice Department doesn't get serious about this. Do you think, see, we watch this stuff and we're disgusted right now. And I'm angry, and I'm getting text messages from people. We're angry and disgusted. You know, right now, people in Georgia are emboldened by this. They see these black women crying and they love it. They love that kind of pain. They love that kind of oppression. What do you think these people have been doing it for? Because they want to move us back to the America where you could treat black people like this all the time. And every single time you have a hearing like this and nobody goes to jail and nobody gets perp walked and nobody's in an orange jumpsuit, they think we can do this again. And next time there won't be any guardrails. We have to do something about this. Yeah, and simply complaining about it is not enough.
I mean, so Jason, I played this yesterday. Congressman Clyburn elevated a question I've been asking all the time. We only analyze Merrick Garland. What if he does or doesn't indict Donald Trump? What's the precedent of investigating, your current boss's predecessors in the other party? It seems to me that the whole calculation has shifted with all of this evidence of criminality and not just crimes of passion, but crimes of months-long conspiracy. I mean, the committee is presenting evidence of a months-long conspiracy directed by Donald Trump, quarterbacked by John Eastman, implemented by Rudy Giuliani, with his campaign apparatus kind of jumping on and off the bus like one of those, open-top tour buses to participate in various aspects of it. That went on for many, many months. And I wonder your thoughts on on Congressman Clyburn's analysis that what he's hearing on the ground from constituents all across the country is anger that it appears that one Donald Trump is above the law.
Not only that Donald Trump is above the law, look, this conspiracy is huge now, right? We've got more member of this conspiracy than Herschel Walker's got kids, right? Like every single week we're finding out somebody else was involved in this process, and nobody seems to be getting in trouble. And what you have happening with a lot of voters, and not just African-American voters, but I'm saying Nicole, voters in general, is when you see lawlessness and you see people not being held accountable, it makes you frustrated with the process. It makes you think, well, why should I bother to do with anything? You know, from January 6th to this, you see these people engaging in this behavior like, well, if they're not going to be held accountable, why do I believe this government will protect me? If they're not going to be held accountable, why do I want to wait in line 6.5 hours for this to be done? I understand what the congressman is saying, because he is not just speaking about his constituents. This is what I hear, Nicole, from my students, from my parents, from my friends, from everybody who doesn't do this every day for a living. They look at this and they say, if I engage in a conspiracy like this to steal money from the local PTA, I'd be in jail. So how the hell can people trying to steal the whole government not be facing any consequences except for a tough hearing, half of which they decide they don't even want to show up?
Yeah, I mean, Miles, I want